and welcome to my backyard. We have, well, I don't know, I think it's really pretty out here today, so I'm just enjoying some fresh air in the backyard, and I thought, you know what, I would like to invite you to come along with me for just a few minutes to hang out in the morning. The whole gardening thing started because a buddy of mine, Grant McIntosh, I stream with him and another friend of mine on the Outdoors Live Crew channel. I got a link to that right there. If you'd be interested in joining us on a Tuesday afternoon, 6 o'clock Central Time, we would love to have you. We have a whole lot of fun on there talking about fishing and hunting and, you know, dude stuff. Grant is probably the best gardener I've ever met in my life. And so I've been kind of like, I learned a little bit from watching him and hearing what he has to say about it. I wanted to get a garden going. So I did some planting, and I probably did a lot of things that he would advise me against. I'm hard-headed. I've got to learn my lessons. This is the way that I am. Grant does these amazing epic gardens, and I wanted to get into that too, so I planted a garden. Let me show you around. Let me show you what I got. I will get to that guy in just a minute. One of the things that I'm really proud about with the garden is that I did it super cheap. Everything here cost about $100, and that's not just plants, that's everything. Late last summer, my brother had a bunch of poblano peppers that he was cooking up, and he took all the seeds and just threw them in some pots, and he grew a whole bunch of poblano peppers. I had no idea you could even do that. I thought the seeds were irradiated and they wouldn't produce plants and yada, yada, yada. That's really cool. I like the idea that I'm not spending, you know, $1,000 on all of the seeds and or the mini plants or all of the stuff involved in growing a 50-cent poblano pepper, right? One of the first things I did was simply plant a head of celery that my wife had, you know, she was snacking on one day. And right next to old celery here, I've got some chives, and this is the same thing. We just made sushi. And so I just took the chives and I planted them back in here. I'm actually growing some palm trees here too, because this will end up being cleared out and being part of like a decorative garden. But until then, I'm, you know, using the space that I got to, you know, do some food. And we got chives here, and then I've got some green onion here, same kind of thing. The tomato plants, because we love tomatoes in our house. These are all tomatoes. I've got another bed over here that I'll show you, but about half of these plants were all seeds that I took out of tomatoes that we got from the grocery store. That's gonna be the ones that were over there. So these tomato plants, I think I spent like $1 per plant on little seedlings. Now, I didn't like garden anything out here because I was really in a hurry, but you might have seen, I've also got these squash plants right down there. And I did just throw those in the ground. But that was also just a squash that we ate. Before Thanksgiving, we had a squash, and I just took the seeds and I put them into little pots, grew them, and then, you know, they were all in bundles, so that's why they're all bundled up the way that they are. And I just took those little plants and put them in the ground and started watering them right here next to the tomato plants because I wanted to keep it all going. Stoked to see that they are actually flowering, and we've got some squash coming up. These are the tomato plants that I planted off of some tomatoes that we had when we were making a salad one day. And then same thing, just a lot more of those squash seeds that I did. This planter, when I first started this channel, I was working as a manager at this convenience store. There was this guy that was in there, and I caught him stealing Cokes, so I was discreet, but I told him one day he came in to actually buy something, and I rang him up for all the Cokes that I'd seen him steal. He was saying, you know, what do you mean? Why does it cost this much? I said, well, because I'm charging you for all of the Cokes that I caught you stealing on camera for the last week. And he was really embarrassed and really apologetic. So he paid for all the Cokes. He promised me that he would never do it again. He was working construction. He was part of the crew of guys that were like taking all the bricks off of that building. He came in one day and asked me if I wanted a bunch of bricks because he knew I wanted to build a brick barbecue pit. I just had back surgery at the time, so I couldn't be hauling bricks. I said, no, you know, as much as I want those bricks and I want to do a barbecue pit, I'm not going to go over there and lift a bunch of bricks and load up my truck. That night when I got off of work, he had taken like 3 wheelbarrows, if not more, 3 or 4 wheelbarrows worth of bricks, walked them from the school to the convenience store I was at, which was probably 3 or 4 blocks at least. He was wheelbarrowing them down the highway, and he loaded them all into my truck for me. You know, I wish we had more people with like that kind of work ethic. I should have hired that guy. Late last summer, I got a bug, and I was like, you know what, I want a fire pit. So I took all the bricks, and I built a fire pit, and the first thing that I burned in this is what it originally was my fire pit. And the very first burn that I did with a bunch of trash branches and stuff from the yard was taller than the roof. I decided that this was not going to be a very good fire pit for me. It was not going to be safe. I filled it with dirt, and immediately Rachel was pissed as hell because I ruined her fire pit. So now I do have some leftover bricks, and now I'm being charged with building another fire pit. That $100 that I spent on this whole garden, that includes the $20 I spent on mortar for that guy. And then next up, so Peter is the one who got me into the idea of just throwing all these seeds in the pot. And there's some problems with this. They're really obvious. So for like these guys, these are jalapenos, which I didn't honestly know that until just recently because they started producing jalapenos. Yeah, I had no idea. So, but awesome, because I love jalapenos. The problem with this plant, though, is that they're all bundled together in here, so they're not getting as big. The ones that are separated out, like these bell peppers that I got, are getting bigger, and they're producing better fruit and, you know, all of that stuff. So, yes, you could have told me in advance that that is how that would have worked. I knew that in advance. I still did this. I am still getting some jalapenos, but they would have been better. It'll be better next season, I promise you. Regardless, I am really excited about having some bell peppers and a ton of these jalapenos in here because I am a big fan of jalapenos. That's more vitamin C than an orange right there. Here, I've got another thing of squash, and I've got some basil, a different kind of basil there, and some oregano because I like my herbs, and we put this in fish. You'll see me do that in a cooking video here. I've got some cilantro coming in because I planted that all together and it just took forever to grow, so this guy's kind of outgrowing it. My hopes and intention that this squash, when it's done, I'm going to rip that out of there and the cilantro will really get an opportunity to explode. I hope it takes over this whole pot. Not yet to this guy, but we will be in just a second. And we've got more jalapenos over here, more squash over here. I had this entire thing, you can see all the seeds. I had this entire thing full of cilantro, and that is the only plant that grew out of that whole thing in this pot. And then just for fun, I do this from time to time. We'll have like a pineapple, and I'm gonna put that guy on the ground. This guy right here, this little tree that I've got, he's my buddy. I planted him a year ago. Actually, I didn't plant him. What we've got are these little seedling guys that pop up all over the yard. That guy, we got one right there. I took one of those and I put him in a pot and started growing him. When we first moved into this house, we had a cottonwood tree right here. It was the biggest tree out of all of these. Died a couple years ago, like I think the year we bought the house. Been using it for firewood ever since, or chopping block and all that. That cottonwood was just wonderful about shading this backyard, and I really miss that tree. 5 years ago, I did the exact same thing. One of those little guys was growing on the other side of the fence here, and so I put a brick around it. I didn't want anybody mowing it over, and that's this guy. I love this tree. It's perfect because in the summer, the sun comes over that section of the sky, and this guy right here shades my patio door area right here, and it's a beautiful tree, and I love it to death. And in case you've been wondering about this is the tree that I use to hang my trophies when I go fishing, which these guys need to come down now. they're all dried out. If I'm gonna dry out some fins or a swordfish bill or something like that, I hang them up in this tree here, let them dry out, and then I've got my trophies. That's like the coolest tree in the world, and I'm trying to get a second one to grow for the rest of the backyard so that they match. If you enjoyed this, you want to maybe have like a little garden breakfast with me one day, or you want me to do this every now and then, I'm happy to do it. Just let me know. Also, check out Grant's stuff. If you want to see like some really good gardening, I'll have a link to his channel right there. Check it out. Thank you for keeping me company. Thank you for hanging out with me today. I really appreciate it. I had a great time out here in the garden. I look forward to doing it with you again. Have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you in the next video.